If you're a working mom who feels like you're barely surviving, juggling everything but thriving at nothing, constantly exhausted and wondering if this is all there is, I'm going to share 7 powerful principles that will shift you from survival mode to actually thriving in every area of your life. These aren't just business success principles. These are life principles that, when applied with faith, will transform how you work, mother, and live. Hi, I'm Denise. Welcome to my channel, and this is Faith Mom. And today, we're talking about something different, but so important for working moms, just like me. I came across these success principles from Brian Tracy. He calls them the 7 C's of success. And they're usually taught in business context. But as I was learning about them, I realized working moms need these principles just as much, if not more, than entrepreneurs. Because we're not just building businesses, we're building lives, raising children, managing homes, pursuing careers, and trying to stay connected to God through it all. So today, I'm taking these 7 C's and reframing them specifically for us, working Christian moms who want to thrive, not just survive. So let's dive in. Now, the first C is clarity. Brian Tracy says 80% of success comes from clarity, knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you want to accomplish. And 80% of failures come from lack of clarity. So for working moms, this is huge because we're pulled in so many directions that we lose clarity about what actually matters. You need clarity on your priorities, not what everyone else says should be your priorities, but what God says and what you know deep in your heart matters most. So for me, my priorities are my relationship with God, my family, my work, and my health, in that order. And when I'm clear about that, decision making becomes easier. Now, when someone asks me to volunteer for something and I'm already stretched thin, I can say no because I'm clear that protecting family time is more important than impressing people. When work tries to demand more hours than I can give, I can set boundaries because I'm clear that being present for my child matters more than climbing a corporate ladder. Clarity means you write things down. Your goals for your family, your goals for your work, your goals for your spiritual life, not just thinking about them, writing them down. Because here's what I've learned. If it's not written down, it's just a wish, a wishy-washy. When you write it down, it becomes a plan. So here's your first action step. Write down your top 3 priorities in life right now. Just 3. What matters most? Then look at how you're spending your time and see if it actually matches those priorities. If your priority is your relationship with God, but you haven't spent intentional time with Him in weeks, there's a disconnect. If your priority is your family, but you're saying yes to everything else and giving them your leftovers, there's a disconnect. Clarity reveals the gaps. And then you can adjust. Now, the second C is competence. Yes, competence. Tracy says you can only be successful if you're very good at what you do. And that takes time, effort, and skill building. Hone your skills. So for working moms just like me, competence means you're excellent at the things that matter most. Now, notice I didn't say perfect. I said excellent. There's a difference. You don't have to be the perfect mom, but you can be competent at mothering, knowing your child, meeting their needs, creating a loving home. You don't have to be Employee of the Year, but you can be competent at your job, doing quality work, being reliable, contributing value. You don't have to have it all figured out spiritually, but you can be competent in your faith, knowing God's word, praying, living out what you believe. Competence requires you to keep learning and growing and honing that skill, not in a hustle culture, never enough kind of way, but in a I'm becoming better at what matters kind of way. So for me, working in early childhood education, that means I'm always learning more about child development, about how to support families, about how to create environments where children thrive. And as a mother, it means I'm learning about my own child, what she needs, how she communicates, how to parent her specifically, not just follow generic advice. And as a Christian, it means I'm not stagnant in my faith. Of course, I'm reading, praying, growing, asking questions, becoming more like Christ. So here's your second action step. Pick one area where you want to grow in competence. Maybe it's a skill at work. Maybe it's learning to manage your finances better. Maybe it's deepening your prayer life. So pick one thing and commit to improving that area over the next 3 months. And the third C, concentration. Now, this one is about focusing on what's most important and doing that first. According to Mark Twain, eat that frog. Do the hardest, most important thing first thing in the day, and everything else will feel easier. For working moms, concentration means you prioritize ruthlessly. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot do everything. You physically can't. So you have to concentrate on what matters most and let the rest go. This is where a lot of us struggle because we feel guilty about what we're not doing. But here's the truth, you're always not doing something. The question is, are you not doing the right thing? I'd rather have a messy house and quality time with my child than a spotless house and a child who feels ignored. I'd rather let some emails wait and spend my morning quiet time with God than be caught up on emails and spiritually empty. Concentration means you eliminate distractions. You say no to good things so you can say yes to the best things. And listen, this is hard, I understand, because there are a lot of good things competing for your attention. But good is the enemy of best. So here's your third action step. Identify your biggest time waster, the thing that steals your focus and doesn't add real value to your life. Social media scrolling, saying yes to things you don't actually want to do, overthinking, name it, and commit to reducing or eliminating it. Now, the fourth C, constraints. Tracy talks about identifying the one thing that's limiting your progress, the bottleneck, the constraint, and focusing on removing that. So, for working moms, just like me, this is powerful because we often feel stuck, but we're not clear on why. Maybe your constraint is childcare. You can't work more or take on a better opportunity because you don't have reliable childcare. That's your constraint. So instead of trying to fix ton things, focus on solving that one thing. Maybe your constraint is the management. You're disorganized and it's costing you hours every week. That's your constraint. So focus there. Get a system, use a planner, batch tasks. Maybe your constraint is your health. You're exhausted all the time because you're not sleeping, not eating well, not moving your body. That's limiting everything else in your life. So focus there first. So for me, when my mom went back to the Philippines, my constraint was childcare. Everything else was working okay, but I needed to find the right nursery for my child. So that's where I put my energy, praying, researching, visiting places. And once that constraint was solved, everything else could move forward. Now, here's your fourth action step. Ask yourself, what's the one thing holding me back right now? Not 10 things, one thing. Identify it and then focus your energy on addressing it. Now, the fifth C, continuous learning. Tracy says most self made millionaires spend time every single day studying their field, learning and growing. For working moms, continuous learning means you don't get stuck. You don't just survive on autopilot. You keep growing. And this doesn't mean you have to go back to school or spend hours reading. It means you're intentional about learning in small ways. So you could listen to a podcast while you're commuting, read one chapter of a book before bed, watch a helpful video during lunch, take an online course when you can. But here's what's important. Learn things that actually help you in the life you're living. That's actually what I do. I do it when I commute. I listen to podcasts, listen to YouTube videos, and I'm learning every day. So learn about parenting the age and stage your child is in right now. Right now, learn skills that will help you advance in your career or do your job better. Learn about managing money so you can provide better for your family. Learn more about God, more about the Bible, more about how to live out your faith practically. Now, the goal isn't to consume information for the sake of it. The goal is to grow in ways that help you thrive. Here's your fifth action step. Commit to learning something new every week. It could be 15 minutes. That's too short. Although you can still learn. But I would advise, my suggestion is 15 minutes. What I actually do is like an hour a day. It could be one article, one podcast episode, one conversation with someone who knows more than you. Just keep growing. Now, the sixth C is commitment. This one is about perseverance. It's about showing up even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired. For working moms, commitment means you don't quit on the things that matter just because they're hard. You don't quit on your marriage because you had a fight. You don't quit on your job because you had a bad day. You don't quit on your faith because you're struggling. You don't quit on yourself because you made a mistake. You keep showing up. You keep trying. You get back up when you fall. And listen, this doesn't mean you stay in toxic situations or never make changes. Commitment isn't about blind stubbornness. It's about not giving up on what truly matters just because it got difficult or the challenge has got really, really difficult. I think about the days when I wanted to quit, when everything felt so hard, when I was crying in the car before work because I felt so guilty leaving my child. But I didn't quit. I kept showing up, and eventually it got easier. Not because the circumstances changed dramatically, but because I grew stronger. Here's your sixth action step. Think about one area where you've wanted to give up. What would it look like to commit to that for just one more month? Not forever, just one more month. And then see what happens. Now, the seventh C is courage. This is the last one, courage. Now, it's actually, courage is about having the courage to start. From the word itself, to keep going, to make changes, to do hard things. So for working moms, courage looks like a lot of things. It's the courage to set boundaries at work, even when you're afraid of being judged. It's the courage to ask for help, even when you think you should be able to do it all alone. And it's the courage to admit you're struggling instead of pretending everything's fine. And it's the courage to make decisions that are right for your family, even when other people don't understand. And it's the courage of trust God or to trust God when you can't see the whole plan. I needed courage when I had to leave my child at nursery for the first time. I needed courage when I had to tell my boss I couldn't work extra hours because I needed to be home. I needed courage when I had to admit I was overwhelmed and needed support. And you know what? Every time I acted in courage, even when I was scared, things worked out. Maybe not the way I expected, but they worked out. So, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's actually doing the thing even though you're afraid. Now, here's your seventh action step. What's one brave thing you need to do this week? One conversation you need to have? One boundary you need to set? One thing you need to start or stop? Do that thing and be brave. Now, let's bring it all together. So, there they are, the 7 C's for working moms just like you and me. I hope you learned something, so I'll wrap this up. Now, the first one is clarity. You know what matters most and let that guide your decisions. Next is competence. Get really good at, the things that matters. And then concentration. Focus on the best things, not just the good things. Constraints. Identify what's holding you back and fix that first. Continuous learning. So keep growing, keep improving, honing your skills. And then commitment. Don't quit just because it's hard. And the last one is courage. Do the brave thing even when you're scared. Now, here's what I want you to understand. These aren't just success principles for your career. These are life principles. And when you apply them with faith, when you invite God into each of these areas, they become even more powerful. Clarity comes from knowing God's purpose for your life, not just following the world's definition of success. Competence grows when you're using the gifts God gave you for His glory. Concentration becomes easier when you're focused on eternal things, not just urgent things. Constraints are overcome when you trust that God will provide what you need when you need it. Continuous learning includes growing in your relationship with God, not just in worldly knowledge. Commitment is sustained when you remember that God is faithful even when you're weak. And courage is possible when you know that God is with you and for you. Now, these principles work. They work in business, oh, definitely. But they also work in motherhood, in marriage, in faith, and in life. And you don't have to implement all 7 at once. Start with one. Pick the C that resonates most with you right now and focus there. Maybe you need clarity more than anything. You need to figure out what actually matters. Maybe you need courage. You know what to do, and you just need to be brave enough to do it. Maybe you need to identify your constraint, the one thing that's holding everything else back. So, what you need to do is just start there, work on that, and then move to the next one. Because, remember this, here's the truth. You are capable of more than you think. You are stronger than you feel. And with God's help and these 7 principles, you can move from just surviving to actually thriving. Not in a hustle culture, never rest, do more, be more kind of way, but in a grounded, purposeful, fulfilling kind of way where you're living with intention, growing with purpose, and showing up fully in the life God has given you. You can do this. Yes, you can. Just believe you really can. So, thanks for being here today. This was a longer one, but I hope it was worth it. If this helped you, let me know in the comments which of the 7 C's you're going to focus on first. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, remember, you're not meant to just survive motherhood and work. You're meant to thrive. And these 7 principles will help you get there. Until next time, see you and talk to you soon.